At Dynamic Edge Technologies, Monday mornings were usually filled with deadlines and the hum of productivity, but this Monday was anything but ordinary. A man named Ethan Gray rolled into the sleek glass lobby in a wheelchair, dressed in a sharp navy suit that exuded quiet confidence. He was the company's new CEO, but instead of making a grand announcement, Ethan had decided to keep his identity a secret to observe the company's true culture. What unfolded next was shocking. Linda, the stern and notoriously unsympathetic HR manager, noticed Ethan and, without hesitation, approached him with words dripping in condescension. Little did she know, the man she dismissed so carelessly was the very leader of the company and her own boss. This story isn't just about one incident. It's about justice, transformation, and the power of confronting prejudice. What happens when those who enforce rules find themselves at the mercy of the very values they claim to uphold? Stick around to witness an extraordinary tale of redemption and change, one that will leave you reflecting on the importance of respect and integrity in the workplace. It was another bustling Monday morning at Dynamic Edge Technologies. The office was alive with the sound of hurried footsteps, ringing phones, and the constant hum of conversation. Employees rushed to meet deadlines, their heads buried in coffee cups and laptops. It was a familiar scene, one of routine and focus. Khalil closed his eyes and lost control over the pressure. Amid the hustle, a man named Ethan Gray entered the sleek glass lobby in a wheelchair. His tailored navy suit and composed demeanor stood out, exuding quiet authority. But Ethan wasn't there to make a grand entrance or draw attention. As the newly appointed CEO, he had chosen to arrive incognito, hoping to observe the company's culture unfiltered and see his team as they truly were. While Ethan's calm presence piqued the curiosity of a few employees, one person took immediate offense: Linda, the sharp and authoritative HR manager. Known for her no-nonsense demeanor and lack of tolerance for mistakes, Linda ruled her department with an iron fist. To her, the man in the wheelchair was an unwelcome interruption. Striding confidently toward Ethan, Linda's heels clicked sharply against the polished floor. Without waiting for introductions, she fixed him with a cold stare and snapped, "This area is for employees only. Let me help you find your way out. Go your own way in the restroom and pee." Ethan remained composed, his gaze steady as Linda's dismissive tone echoed through the lobby. But Linda's annoyance only grew. Ignoring the sharpness of his suit and his calm confidence, she dismissed him outright, assuming he didn't belong. And for once, Ethan received a meaningful answer. His confidence was so immediate that Ethan thought it was because the mushroom of questions had grown in. The tension in the room began to rise. Employees passing by slowed their steps, sensing the interaction was more than it seemed. But Linda either didn't notice or didn't care. Her words were laced with condescension, a trait that had earned her a reputation as unapproachable and overly strict. Gregory shook his head and asked how the name of the flight attendant worked. Gregory sighed. Ethan, still silent, tilted his head slightly, studying Linda's every word and action. His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Linda's growing frustration, creating an almost unbearable sense of anticipation. The stage was set for a dramatic turn of events, one that would not only reveal the true colors of those involved, but also set the foundation for change. Unbeknownst to Linda, her actions were about to be placed under a spotlight in front of the entire office, and her career would never be the same. Linda squared her shoulders, her confidence unwavering as she stood before Ethan in the lobby. Her arms crossed tightly over her chest, she repeated her dismissive tone. "This is a private space. I'm not sure how you got in here, but you can't stay." She tilted her head, the faintest smirk of impatience tugging at the corner of her lips. To her, Ethan was nothing more than an outsider who didn't belong in the pristine world she had carefully curated. Ethan, calm and composed, didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at Linda with a steady gaze, his expression unreadable. "Actually," he said, his voice even and deliberate, "I'm exactly where I need to be." The air between them grew thick with tension, but Linda didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down, her voice dripping with authority. "I don't know how you managed to get past security," she said, her words cutting, "but this is not a place where you can just show up unannounced." She looked over at him and her face was heated and hot. Before Ethan could respond, a voice sliced through the tension like a knife. "Linda, what are you doing?" Emma, the regional manager, appeared, her face pale with panic. Her wide eyes darted from Ethan to Linda, and the weight of the situation was written all over her expression. Unlike Linda, Emma knew exactly who Ethan was, and the realization of what was unfolding in front of her made her stomach twist. "What am I doing?" Linda replied sharply, turning to Emma with an air of indignation. "I'm handling someone who clearly doesn't belong here." Emma's voice cracked as she blurted out, "That's Mr. Ethan Gray. He's our new CEO." The words landed like a thunderclap. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Linda's confident smirk vanished, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. Her arms dropped stiffly to her sides, her face turning pale as the full weight of Emma's words sank in. Around them, employees stopped in their tracks. Whispers spread like wildfire, and wide-eyed stares filled the room as people pieced together what was happening. The tension was almost tangible, thick enough to cut with a knife. They looked with wide eyes towards one another, momentarily stunned, and then fled to the doorway. Ethan leaned forward slightly in his wheelchair, his presence both commanding and unshakable. "It's fascinating," he began, his words deliberate and sharp, "how quickly people reveal themselves when they think no one is watching." Violet pursed her lips. "Are you worried about your mom?" Linda's lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. She stumbled, her usual composure shattered. I didn't mean," she stammered, her voice faltering under Ethan's unwavering gaze. She silently watched, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and the judgment in the eyes of her co-workers was impossible to ignore. Whispers grew louder, and the employees who had long endured Linda's dismissive behavior began to exchange knowing glances. Emma stood frozen, torn between relief that Ethan had witnessed Linda's behavior firsthand and dread over the public spectacle unfolding. Becker went on. Ethan's voice rang out again, this time addressing the gathered employees. "Respect isn't just a company policy," he said, scanning the room. "It's a necessity. Without it, no workplace can thrive. Discrimination of any kind has no place here." As his words echoed through the lobby, a ripple of applause began to build. It started with a few hesitant claps, but quickly grew into a wave of support. Employees stood a little taller, their faces lighting up with a renewed sense of hope and determination. Linda, meanwhile, stood frozen in place, her earlier arrogance replaced with visible regret. The realization of her mistake and its consequences was undeniable. In just a few minutes, the entire culture of Dynamic Edge Technologies had begun to shift. Ethan's actions and words were a rallying cry for change, and the dramatic moment in the lobby would be remembered as the day respect and integrity took center stage. As the applause subsided, the room grew quiet, but the energy in the air was palpable. Ethan Gray, still seated in his wheelchair, allowed the silence to settle for a moment before speaking. His gaze swept across the crowd of employees who had gathered, his expression calm but resolute. "Respect," Ethan began, his voice steady and deliberate, "isn't just a line in a handbook. It's not something you practice only when someone is watching. It's a fundamental necessity, not just for a company to thrive, but for us as individuals to grow." He paused, letting his words sink in. The employees watched him intently, many nodding in agreement. Linda, however, stood stiffly to the side, her face pale, her arms hanging limply at her sides. The confidence and authority she once wielded seemed to have evaporated, replaced with visible regret. "Confession, Bill," he said. "You're moving too quickly." Ethan continued, his tone firm yet measured. "What I witnessed today isn't just about one person's actions. It's about a culture that allows prejudice and arrogance to fester. This stops now. Dynamic Edge Technologies is built on innovation, but innovation means nothing if it isn't paired with inclusivity and mutual respect. He paused. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Some employees exchanged glances, others nodded quietly. Ethan's words resonated deeply, touching on issues many had likely experienced, but never felt empowered to address. Turning his gaze directly to Linda, Ethan addressed her without raising his voice, yet the weight of his words was undeniable. "Linda," he said, his tone unwavering, "you've built your reputation on authority and control, but authority without empathy is nothing more than fear. Today you've shown everyone exactly what happens when power is used to belittle rather than uplift." Her breath held swiftly. Her eyes wandered to Linda. Linda's lips parted, but no words came. Her usual sharp demeanor was replaced with a look of disbelief and shame. She opened her mouth to speak, but her voice faltered. I didn't mean," she stammered, unable to complete her sentence. Ethan, maintaining his composure, didn't wait for her to finish. "Intent doesn't erase impact," he said firmly. "And the impact of your actions today has been clear for everyone to see." The employees stood in stunned silence, many visibly moved by Ethan's words. Some exchanged knowing looks, as if finally seeing their workplace through a new lens. Others smiled faintly, their respect for their new CEO growing with each word. Skye opened her mouth. Ethan's focus shifted back to the crowd, his tone softening. "I want all of you to know this. This is a fresh start for Dynamic Edge. A company isn't just its products or profits, it's its people. And every person here deserves to be treated with dignity, no matter their title, background, or appearance." The silence broke into another wave of applause, this time louder and more enthusiastic. Employees clapped and cheered, their faces lit with a renewed sense of hope. The sound echoed through the building, a symbolic breaking of old norms and the beginning of something new. "Bye," called Paris, before discordant footsteps fell silent again. Linda, standing at the edge of the room, seemed smaller than she had ever appeared. Her shoulders slumped, her head lowered as the weight of her actions and their consequences pressed down on her. For years, she had ruled through intimidation, but now she stood exposed, her arrogance replaced with regret. She sighed. Ethan, sensing the shift in the room, closed with a rallying call. "This isn't just about what happened today," he said. "It's about who we want to be, individually and as a company. Let this be the day we commit to building something greater, together." Black and gold signages appeared on the cars as they pulled away, the darkness in the forest clear during its sail through. "Great," Ethan reassured the others. As the applause thundered once more, Ethan leaned back in his wheelchair, his calm expression unwavering. The tension that had gripped the office earlier had transformed into an atmosphere of determination and possibility. For Linda, the realization was clear. The path she had walked, one built on fear and disdain, had crumbled beneath her. And while she couldn't undo the harm she had caused, the lesson was one she would carry forever. Meanwhile, for the rest of the team, Ethan's response marked the start of a new chapter, one defined by respect, integrity, and inclusivity. The aftermath of Ethan Gray's powerful response rippled through the office like a wave, leaving no corner untouched. The usual hum of chatter and clicking keyboards returned, but this time it carried a renewed sense of purpose and unity. The tension that had previously defined the workplace was replaced with an atmosphere of inclusivity and hope, as employees reflected on the events they had just witnessed. Emma, the regional manager, felt a deep sense of relief, but also a renewed determination. As someone who had long navigated the challenges of balancing corporate expectations with compassion, Ethan's words reignited her commitment to lead with empathy. She resolved to build a culture where no one would ever feel dismissed or disrespected again. "This is a wake-up call," she later confided to a colleague. Consumption had already dispersed. Leadership isn't about enforcing rules, it's about inspiring others to be their best, said Benjamin Ethiel. After Kara rang the final bell, leadership started. Among the employees, Ethan's message had struck a chord. Conversations that had long been avoided were now happening openly. Small acts of kindness became more visible. Someone holding the elevator for a colleague, another offering to help with a workload. The team seemed more united than ever, bound by a shared understanding of the importance of respect and integrity. Even those who had admired Linda's authority from a distance began to reconsider what true leadership looked like. Her downfall served as a stark reminder that power built on fear and arrogance is unsustainable. In its place, Ethan's calm and unwavering presence had shown that strength lies in humility and respect. The shoes on her feet loomed terrifying, stark and respectful. As for Linda, the lesson was undeniable. Once a figure of authority, she now stood as a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when power is wielded without care for others. Though her regret was evident, the path to rebuilding her reputation would not be easy. Yet, even in her visible regret, there was a sense that she had begun to grasp the harm her actions had caused. So she spoke with a sense of resolution, then said, "In the days that followed, Ethan's influence was felt in every corner of the company. Policies were reviewed, and new initiatives were launched to ensure a culture of inclusivity. Employees, inspired by their CEO's courage and integrity, approached their work with a renewed sense of pride and purpose." Ethan's final words during the meeting lingered in the minds of many. Power used to belittle others will always crumble under its own weight. True strength lies in lifting others up and creating an environment where everyone can thrive. Dynamic Edge Technologies wasn't just a company anymore, it was a movement. A leader's vision and actions had transformed not only the workplace, but the people within it. As employees returned to their desks, the energy in the air wasn't just about meeting deadlines, it was about building something greater together. For the first time in a long time, the company wasn't just leading in innovation, it was leading with integrity. Eve leaned forward and gave a prayer for both her husband and son. Then she ran to find him. This story is more than just a workplace incident. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of standing against prejudice and treating everyone with dignity, no matter their role or appearance. What happened at Dynamic Edge Technologies shows how one person's actions, fueled by bias, can tear others down. But it also highlights the strength of leadership rooted in respect and integrity to inspire change. For some minutes, Chris was uncertain of how she would share her moment. She was uncertain. Workplace discrimination, whether subtle or overt, has no place in a professional environment or anywhere else. It's up to each of us to call out injustice when we see it, and to create spaces where everyone feels valued and respected. Change starts with small steps, and it begins with each of us. If you've ever witnessed or experienced a moment of transformation like this when justice prevailed and someone stood up for what's right, we want to hear your story. Share it in the comments below. Your voice can inspire others and spark meaningful conversations about the values that matter most. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to Real Life Stories. Together we can grow this community and continue to inspire change one story at a time. Let's build a world where respect and kindness aren't just ideals, but everyday actions. Because when we stand together, change is not only possible, it's inevitable. Integrity precedes efficacy. Prophetic words from a timely poet. Shadows divide when the light fails, but heroes return in times of need. Will not descend. Chances are far few, and we are sure to win. Shasta.